Harley-Davidson chairman CEO Jochen Zeitz is retiring after 5 years. The announcement of his departure came just days after a board member resigned and called for Zeitz and two other leaders to step down.
Additionally, Harley-Davidson and our strategic partner Kimco will each be making a $100 million investment into LiveWire by merging the business with AEA Bridges and listing on the New York Stock Exchange.
Jochen Zeitz's declaration that Harley-Davidson will shutter all of its American factories and transfer production abroad strikes like a thunderclap across the motorcycle world. The announcement came swiftly on the heels of newly elected President Donald Trump's imposition of hefty tariffs on trade partners, a policy move that has sent tremors throughout the manufacturing and export sectors. For a company whose very identity has long been intertwined with the image of proud American workmanship, the decision to abandon its domestic assembly lines marks a landmark shift, one loaded with economic, cultural, and geopolitical implications. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The first ripple can be felt in the landscape of small towns and mid-sized cities, where Harley-Davidson's factories have anchored local economies for generations. These are places where entire communities have grown up around the hum of stamping presses and the rhythm of assembly lines. Skilled machinists and assembly technicians, many of whom have honed specialized expertise passed down through apprenticeships, now face an unsettling future. With Zeitz's decision, thousands of jobs stand to vanish, not simply replaced by any equivalent positions elsewhere, but eliminated from American soil forever. The lost wages will ripple out beyond the factory gates. Fewer customers for diners and motels, fewer shoppers at local retail outlets, and diminished tax bases for schools and municipal services. The closure of these factories will create an economic vacuum in towns where alternative employment opportunities are scarce. Beyond the local level, the choice to move production abroad underscores a broader pattern drummed up by corporate leaders confronting rising costs. President Trump's tariff strategy, aimed ostensibly at leveling the playing field for American workers, has instead ratcheted up the price of exporting goods. When reciprocal duties are applied to American-made motorcycles, markets in Europe, Asia, and Latin America suddenly become less accessible. Consumers who once saw Harley-Davidson as the quintessential American brand, with its roar of V-twin engines and chrome details, now face sticker shock at the border. In response, Zeitz calculated that relocating assembly operations to lower tariff environments or to nations unburdened by such duties would help maintain competitive pricing abroad. The result is a strategic retreat from higher-cost jurisdictions, a move that may guard profit margins but erodes the company's historic Made in America badge. This decision also carries symbolic weight in the cultural imagination. Harley-Davidson has, for more than a century, been more than a motorcycle maker. It has been an icon of American freedom, rebellion, and rugged individualism. From the black leather-clad riders of the post-war era to the film imagery of open highways and wide horizons, the brand has woven itself into the tapestry of national identity. By shifting its production footprint overseas, Harley-Davidson risks diluting the authenticity that has fueled its mythos. In showrooms around the world, the prospect of bikes built in Thailand, Brazil, or Poland bearing the bar and shield logo will inevitably provoke questions. Are these machines still the same? Does the brand's soul reside in its design and history, or in the soil where its frames were welded together? Zeitz must now contend not only with logistics and finance, but with preserving the intangible allure that has defined Harley-Davidson. The global supply chain consequences of this factory exodus are equally profound. Setting up production in overseas locations requires rebuilding networks of suppliers, of castings, transmissions, paint shops, and upholstery workshops. Zeitz and his executive team will need to forge new partnerships, negotiate contracts, and oversee rigorous quality controls to ensure the bikes meet Harley's exacting standards. This monumental undertaking will involve thousands of employees abroad, from managerial staff to skilled technicians. It also means that the flow of parts and materials will change course. Domestic steel mills, aluminum foundries, and leather producers may suffer reduced orders, while foreign suppliers gain prominence. This will shift economic activity across continents, decoupling the intricate web of suppliers that once orbited around Milwaukee. Meanwhile, the stock market's reaction to Zeitz's announcement highlights the tension between short-term investor confidence and long-term brand stewardship. Wall Street analysts had bristled at the margin pressures introduced by tariffs, and many interpreted the decision to offshore as a pragmatic move to protect profitability. Shares experienced a modest uptick on the news, reflecting relief that Harley-Davidson aimed to head off escalating costs. Yet some long-term shareholders expressed unease. They worry that overseas factories, once established, may not only serve export markets but gradually supplant U.S. production entirely, even if tariffs are later rolled back. This potential for inertia in the new operational model raises questions about Harley's commitment to its American roots. Investors, after all, place value not only on immediate returns but on brand equity, an asset that can erode when authenticity is perceived as compromised. Political repercussions are also unfolding in Washington and state capitals. Lawmakers in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, where Harley-Davidson's plants have served as economic mainstays, are already demanding hearings. They insist on investigating whether the company explored alternative strategies, such as passing a portion of the tariff burden onto consumers or pursuing government exemptions. Some legislators have proposed emergency relief packages to subsidize domestic production or to penalize companies that move jobs overseas. These debates blur the boundary between free market economics and protectionist impulses, forcing policymakers to grapple with the unintended fallout of their own tariff policies. President Trump, who championed them as a victory for American industry, now finds his signature economic initiative used as justification for factories packed up and shipped offshore. For the workforce, the narrative is one of abrupt uncertainty. Zeitz has pledged to offer relocation assistance or severance packages, but the transition will be wrenching. Skilled workers elderly enough to be nearing retirement face a sudden disruption in their final career years. Younger employees, meanwhile, must choose between retraining for new roles, possibly in entirely different industries, or moving to new cities where jobs are more plentiful. Vocational schools and community colleges may pivot to offer accelerated programs in welding, mechatronics, and maintenance engineering, hoping to connect displaced Harley's workers with emerging local employers. Yet such retraining takes time, and lives will be upended in the interim. Families will feel the strain of diminished household incomes, prompting potential shifts in living arrangements, school enrollments, and community engagement. Consumer perception will play out over the coming months. Loyal Harley riders, many of whom have amassed their own collections of historic models and customized machines, take pride in the brand's heritage. They may feel betrayed by the move, questioning whether these foreign-built models capture the same mystique. Dealerships, too, will need to reshape their messaging, emphasizing that design, engineering oversight, and final inspections will remain under Harley-Davidson's American management. Marketing campaigns may pivot to stress that although assembly lines have moved, the company's heart and headquarters remain indelibly linked to Milwaukee. Yet even the most carefully crafted narrative will be met with skepticism by purists who equate manufacturing location with authenticity. On the flip side, global enthusiasts in Europe and Asia could welcome more affordable Harleys. Reduced tariffs abroad could lower retail prices, enticing new riders to the heavyweight cruiser segment. In markets such as India and Brazil, where rising incomes and youthful demographics hint at growth potential, Harley's newly svelte price points may unlock demand that previously lay dormant behind price barriers. Zeitz is banking on this expansion to offset losses from U.S. sales erosion tied to negative publicity. International growth has long been pegged as the company's salvation amid domestic sales stagnation. By localizing production in key markets, Harley-Davidson hopes to capture a larger share of global motorcycle consumption. Yet the strategic calculus is fraught with risk. Quality consistency across multiple foreign sites demands vigilant oversight. Even minor lapses could tarnish the brand's hard-won reputation for durability and craftsmanship. Zeitz will need to invest heavily in training programs and management systems to replicate Harley-Davidson's famed quality control protocols abroad. Legislative and regulatory landscapes also vary by country. Environmental standards, labor laws, and tax incentives differ across jurisdictions. Negotiating favorable terms with local governments may involve complex incentive packages, adding to the administrative burden. Worse, any political upheaval or economic downturn in host countries could expose Harley-Davidson to new vulnerabilities, factors they once mitigated by centralizing production in stable, familiar settings. Meanwhile, the echo chamber of social media amplifies every twist in the saga. Online forums, rider clubs, and Facebook groups have lit up with impassioned debates. Some voices call for boycotts, pledging to sell their bikes in protest. Others urge a softer line, arguing that the global economy necessitates such shifts and that Harley-Davidson must adapt or perish. Memes mocking the transition abound, featuring images of restless Harleys heading for cargo ships. Zeitz, who has cultivated a close relationship with the riding community, faces a delicate communications challenge. He must reassure die-hard enthusiasts without alienating international customers whose goodwill the company now more heavily depends upon. Academic observers see Zeitz's move as emblematic of a larger pattern in advanced manufacturing. In an era of heightened trade tensions and globalization backlash, corporations increasingly favor agile, low-cost production networks over rigid, high-cost domestic factories. The political impetus for tariffs, intended to bolster onshore employment, often backfires when companies like Harley-Davidson opt to flee tariff-driven cost spikes rather than absorb them. This phenomenon underscores the limits of protectionist policy in an interconnected economy. Walls and duties can incentivize offshoring rather than encourage resilience. Meanwhile, trade partners targeted by Trump's tariffs, Europe, Canada, Mexico, have already announced retaliatory duties. Their stances reinforce Zeitz's rationale. The reciprocal levies make exporting American-made motorcycles prohibitively expensive. European Union tariffs on U.S. bikes rose to 36% in the aftermath, roughly doubling the duties that applied just months earlier. Canada, a top 5 market, slapped 25% tariffs on all imports of powered vehicles. In the face of these barriers, even Harley-Davidson's flagship models, touted for their premium positioning, risked being priced out of coveted markets. The calculus thus became stark. Either pay the punitive tariffs or move production to tariff-friendly locales. The strategic decision to relocate also extends beyond simple cost arbitrage. Zeitz envisions a more flexible manufacturing footprint capable of modular production near demand centers. This distributed network aims to reduce lead times, ease logistics complexities, and tailor models to local tastes. For example, bikes destined for Europe may be built in Poland to accommodate Euro-specific emission standards, avoiding the need to ship California-tuned engines overseas. Similarly, South American models might roll off lines in Brazil, leveraging local content to benefit from regional trade accords. Such segmentation allows Harley-Davidson to differentiate offerings and comply seamlessly with regulatory nuances, advantages that a centralized U.S. factory model struggles to match. Nevertheless, transitioning to a multi-site manufacturing structure requires an overhaul of enterprise resource planning systems and supply chain orchestration. Zeitz and his team must integrate data flows across plants, align procurement strategies, and maintain consistent brand standards. This transformation will involve deploying advanced manufacturing technologies, robotics, IoT sensors, and data analytics to achieve operational transparency. Harley-Davidson's investment in smart factory initiatives, once confined to domestic facilities, will now extend to overseas locations, potentially accelerating the company's digital transformation. If executed well, this could yield efficiency gains that outweigh the loss of domestic capacity. If botched, it could exacerbate costs and quality issues. The broader motorcycle industry watches closely. Competitors such as Indian Motorcycle and Yamaha have long optimized global production, balancing cost and proximity to market. Harley-Davidson's pivot challenges the notion that heritage brands must remain anchored to their countries of origin. Will consumers ultimately care more about price, availability, and factory novelty dates stamped on their frames than about nostalgic ties to American soil? Zeitz's gamble may redefine what brand provenance means in an age of global manufacturing. If Harley-Davidson thrives with factories in multiple nations, other legacy manufacturers may follow suit, eroding the paradigm of national brand authenticity. And yet, amid all the strategic maneuvering, the human dimension remains profound. Zeitz's announcement lands on the keyboards of Harley enthusiasts as a jarring lamentation of a bygone industrial era. It poses painful questions about loyalty, identity, and the meaning of American-made. For some, Harley-Davidson has forever symbolized a personal connection to the open road, an expression of freedom and self-determination. For them, the closure of U.S. factories may feel like the loss of something intimate and irreplaceable. Zeitz will need to engage directly with these communities, acknowledging their emotional stake and reaffirming Harley-Davidson's enduring commitment to the riding lifestyle. The reverberations of Harley-Davidson's pivot away from U.S. manufacturing will extend far beyond the assembly lines themselves, weaving into every facet of the company's operations and the broader motorcycle ecosystem. One of the most intricate dominoes to fall will be in the realm of sustainability and environmental stewardship. In recent years, Harley-Davidson has touted its commitment to reducing carbon footprints and exploring electric powertrains. Yet the environmental calculus now shifts. Shipping fully assembled motorcycles across oceans can undercut any gains from cleaner production methods. Zeitz and his team will need to undertake a rigorous life cycle analysis, quantifying the net increase in emissions from added freight miles and retooling plants in new locations. They may seek to offset this by investing in renewable energy projects at foreign facilities, partnering with local green energy providers, or purchasing carbon credits to maintain their public pledges on climate responsibility. The optics of making green motorcycles in countries where coal remains a primary energy source could invite scrutiny, pressuring Harley-Davidson to raise the bar on transparency regarding the true environmental cost of its globalization. Closely tied to sustainability, the legal and regulatory implications of cross-border manufacturing will be formidable. Each new factory location will have its own labyrinth of labor laws, environmental regulations, and product safety standards. In some markets, stringent emissions controls and noise ordinances may demand recesses in engine tuning or the incorporation of advanced muffler technologies. Certification processes, CE marking in Europe, Bharat standard approvals in India, and visa clearances in Brazil will add layers of compliance work. Zeitz's legal teams must negotiate these hurdles, potentially lodging for expedited approvals while ensuring each jurisdiction's consumer protection agencies are satisfied. Any misstep could delay shipments, trigger fines, or generate negative press highlighting lapses in global governance. Meanwhile, Harley-Davidson's dealer network faces a profound structural change. For decades, dealerships in the U.S. have been the lifeblood of the brand. Community hubs where riders convene for group rides, celebrate milestone anniversaries, and forge enduring friendships. As production localizes overseas, dealerships will find themselves selling machines stamped made in Thailand or assembled in Poland. Franchise agreements may need renegotiation to accommodate differing warranty logistics, parts distribution, and service protocols. Harleys still under warranty will require a seamless system for ordering replacement parts to be flown in or sourced locally, without inflating costs or lead times. Dealers may also have to adjust inventory planning. Rather than stocking large volumes of US-built models, they will need to forecast and pre-order new lines built abroad, with uncertain turnaround dates. Financial services, too, will feel the aftershocks. Harley's captive financing arm, Harley-Davidson Financial Services HDFS, has long offered loans and leases designed to smooth monthly payments for buyers. If production moves to lower-cost regions and retail prices fall in certain markets, HDFS will need to adapt its underwriting models to account for shifting risk profiles. Machines built abroad may have different residual values based on perceptions of quality and import tariffs that could resurge. Interest rate structures might be tweaked to incentivize purchases of particular models that are built regionally. HDFS could explore partnerships with local banks in Brazil or India, extending financing in local currencies and hedging against exchange rate volatility. The seamlessness of cross-border financial transactions will become a competitive pivot point. The easier the process for international buyers, the more effectively Harley-Davidson can capture growth in emerging markets. In the realm of product innovation, Zeitz's move may accelerate a rethinking of Harley-Davidson's core portfolio. Freed from the constraints of legacy production lines, the company can retool international plants to focus on nimble, market-specific models, emerging occasions products, lightweight adventure bikes for the narrow roads of Europe, affordable urban commuters for Asia, or even electric scooters tailored to congested city centers could proliferate. The design studios in Milwaukee might be recast more as global design hubs, working in tandem with overseas engineers to swiftly prototype and test bikes that resonate with regional tastes. A new Harley Global Series could emerge, featuring limited edition runs that celebrate local cultures. A Cafe Racer Poland edition, a Rio Carnival Cruiser, or an Istanbul Nomad. By localizing beyond mere assembly, Harley-Davidson could transform from a monolithic American icon into a mosaic of culturally attuned sub-brands. Investor relations will evolve in turn. Zeitz's communications with institutional shareholders and bondholders will need to underscore not only cost savings but new pathways to growth and innovation. Earnings calls may showcase line drawings of future models being developed in overseas R&D centers or interviews with plant managers in Thailand speaking to advanced automation investments. Analysts will probe margins closely, how much tariff avoidance flows through to operating income, and how reinvestment in international facilities balances out capital expenditure budgets. Environmental, social, and governance (ESG) investors will demand detailed reporting on how offshore operations adhere to labor standards and human rights, especially in emerging markets where regulatory regimes are still maturing. Harley-Davidson may publish supplemental global manufacturing impact reports detailing worker safety metrics, local community engagements, and climate action plans tied directly to each facility. At the same time, unions and labor advocates in the U.S. will ramp up advocacy efforts, lobbying for stronger job protection measures and trade adjustment assistance. The United Auto Workers UAW and local unions that represent Harley workers may call for new collective bargaining agreements that explicitly restrict offshoring without worker consent. In state legislatures, proposals could surface to impose surcharges on companies that relocate domestic manufacturing abroad. Federal agencies like the International Trade Commission (ITC) might be petitioned to investigate whether Harley-Davidson's shift constitutes a circumvention of tariff laws, particularly if the company continues to import certain knockdown kits for final assembly in low-tariff regions. These legal wrangles could drag on for months or years, overshadowing the practical execution of the new factory network. In parallel, Harley-Davidson's marketing apparatus will be tested as never before. The traditional live-to-ride, ride-to-live messaging will need augmentation to reconcile the tension between heritage and globalization. Rather than leaning exclusively on the Made in USA narrative, marketing campaigns will likely pivot to themes of global brotherhood or riding the world together. Digital platforms will carry ads tailored by geography. Vibrant street scenes of Rio and Bangkok featuring local riders on Harleys next to posts from Milwaukee highlighting design milestones. User-generated content will become a strategic focus. Harley guests sharing stories of factory visits in Poland or Thailand, weaving a more inclusive global story. Sponsorships of international motorsport events and local riding festivals may spike, positioning Harley-Davidson as a sponsor of regional riding cultures rather than as an export from afar. Competition in the premium motorcycle segment will seize upon the upheaval. European brands like BMW and Ducati, with production already embedded in multiple countries, may tout their consistency of experience regardless of origin. Japanese manufacturers such as Honda and Yamaha, which maintain comprehensive global operations, will underscore the reliability of their multi-nation approach as proven rather than experimental. Indian brands, particularly Hero and Royal Enfield, might accelerate efforts to penetrate premium cruiser segments, arguing that they have long mastered both scale and local sensibilities. These rivals will challenge Harley-Davidson's narrative, pitching that global manufacturing is not a compromise of authenticity, but an evolution of pragmatism. On the academic front, business schools and think tanks will dissect the case study for years to come. Zeitz's gambit merges themes of trade policy, corporate governance, and brand management into a single high-stakes experiment. Case studies may juxtapose it with historical parallels. Ford's decision to build the Fiesta in Europe in the 1970s, or the outsourcing of textile manufacturing in the 1990s, and analyze the divergent outcomes. Researchers will pore over Harley's quarterly reports, correlating tariff milestones with stock price movements and market share shifts. Supply chain scholars will model the agility gains from distributed production against the increased complexity costs, aiming to quantify the net value of a global footprint. Zeitz himself may be invited to speak at Harvard Business School or Wharton, presenting his rationale in the lecture halls where tomorrow's executives learn their craft. In the geopolitical arena, Harley-Davidson's factory openings abroad could garner diplomatic fanfare. Host country leaders may grace ribbon-cutting ceremonies, showcasing Harley as a global investor committed to job creation. Trade diplomats might point to these facilities as evidence of strong bilateral relationships, using the brand's global network as a talking point in broader negotiations. Conversely, U.S. trade representatives could face criticism for crafting policies that inadvertently erode domestic manufacturing. International trade organizations, like the World Trade Organization, may cite the case in discussions on the efficacy of tariffs, bolstering arguments for multilateral trade liberalization. Within the broader Harley-Davidson organization, culture and identity will be tested internally. US-based employees, engineering teams, corporate staff, design studios will need reassurance that their roles remain pivotal even as manufacturing shifts overseas. Cross-cultural management training will become essential as Milwaukee managers liaise with counterparts in Bangkok and Manaus. Virtual collaboration platforms and rotational exchange programs may be instituted, allowing American employees to spend time in foreign plants and vice versa. This people-to-people exchange could foster a genuinely global Harley culture, but it requires careful orchestration to avoid miscommunications and to respect local customs. The success of Zeitz's strategy hinges on the seamless integration of these myriad elements: environmental stewardship, legal compliance, dealer uplift, financing acumen, product innovation, investor trust, labor relations, marketing reinvention, competitive response, scholarly analysis, geopolitical signaling, and corporate culture. Each thread pulls on the next. If one phrase, say a regulatory misstep that halts production in Poland because of emissions non-compliance, the ripple could cascade through global shipments, dealer inventories, and consumer confidence. Conversely, if Harley-Davidson manages to harmonize its overseas network, maintaining quality, nurturing authenticity through local engagement, and delivering on cost targets, Zeitz's bold move could redefine what it means to be a global American icon in the 21st century. In the months and years ahead, as concrete milestones emerge, groundbreakings in Chennai or Manaus, first bikes rolling off new assembly lines, sustainability reports revealing a leaner carbon footprint, the industry will watch close. Will these foreign factories create new epicenters of Harley passion, with local riding clubs springing up as vibrantly as the Hog chapters of old? Or will they become sterile outposts lacking the soul imbued by American workers who built Harleys for decades? Zeitz has staked the company's fortunes on the proposition that the Harley-Davidson spirit transcends geography, that its essence resides not in the metal stamping presses of Wisconsin, but in the hearts of riders worldwide. This proposition, if realized, could usher in a new era where Harley-Davidson stands as both an emblem of its American birthplace and a champion of global community. But it demands meticulous execution, cultural sensitivity, and unwavering commitment to the values that riders hold dear. Only then can the bar and shield logo, no matter where it is stamped, continue to evoke the timeless promise of freedom, adventure, and the open road. As production shifts overseas, Harley-Davidson's research and development teams face an opportunity to spearhead transformative technological advancements. Free from the constraints of legacy U.S. tooling, engineers can pilot manufacturing innovations like 3D printed components, advanced composite frames, and next-generation battery packs for electric models in more flexible overseas facilities. These prototypes could then be back integrated into the U.S. product lineup, allowing Milwaukee's designers to collaborate dynamically with global R&D hubs. Such cross-pollination may accelerate Harley's entry into new segments, from adventure tourers to electric scooters, leveraging the agility of smaller, specialized factories rather than a monolithic domestic plant. Concurrently, the move abroad compels a re-examination of after-sales service networks. Harley-Davidson must cultivate partnerships with international logistics providers to ensure timely dispatch of parts, while training service technicians in emerging markets to uphold the brand's maintenance standards. Online diagnostics and over-the-air software updates, already nascent features in Harley's electric models, could become central to global service, reducing reliance on physical parts shipments, and position Harley-Davidson at the forefront of connected motorcycle experiences. Finally, Zeitz's decision underscores a broader industry truth. In today's hyper-competitive environment, heritage alone cannot safeguard market leadership. By embracing a truly global manufacturing and innovation ecosystem, Harley-Davidson aims not just to preserve margins, but to redefine its future, one where its legendary roar reverberates from every continent, unbound by borders. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Harley-Davidson moving abroad after Trump's new tariffs? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.